Welcome to Simply Suspicious, the podcast where we ask the hard hitting questions like, is that just a creepy antique or a soul hungry vessel of pure evil? Today's episode features everyone's favorite nightmare fuel in pigtails, Annabelle. That's right, the allegedly possessed doll that looks like she should be selling hugs, but instead might be negotiating with demons on the side. So grab your holy water, clutch your crystals, and maybe don't sleep with your back to the closet, because this month we're diving into the delightfully cursed tale of Annabelle, the doll that said no thanks to Toy Story and yes please to eternal damnation. Annabelle's story begins in 1971. The legend starts with a 28-year-old nurse in Hartford, Connecticut. The nurse, whose name depends on what you are reading or watching, but for continuity purposes we will call Donna, obtained a 3-foot Raggedy Ann doll for Christmas from her mother. A couple of nights after receiving the gift, Annabelle's owner and her roommate, Angie, noticed some weird occurrences in the general area of the doll. They concluded it was their vivid imagination playing tricks on them. The two roommates began to mess with each other, leaving the doll about the house in different poses as a terror-inducing gag. It became a tradition. Who could pull off the best scare before the start of their shifts? The novelty soon wore off, but it appeared Annabelle wasn't finished. Soon, the Raggedy Ann doll began to move about the house, quote, relatively small movements at first, such as a change in position, but as time passed, the movement became more noticeable. Donna and Angie would come home to find the doll in a completely different room. Sometimes the doll would be found with their legs crossed, arms folded, and other times it would be found upright, standing on its feet, end quote. Donna claimed that she would leave the apartment and Annabelle would be on the couch, but when she returned, Annabelle would be in her bedroom with the door shut. While at first it could easily be explained as a prank from Angie or maybe a friend of theirs, the women started finding notes around the apartment that said, "Help me." The women shared that what made this so off putting was that the notes were written on parchment paper, which was not something they kept in their home. Furthermore, Angie's boyfriend, known only as Lou, was in the apartment one afternoon while Donna was out and heard rustling in her room as if someone had broken in. Upon inspection, he found no sign of forced entry but found the Annabelle doll lying face down on the ground. Other versions of the story say he was attacked upon waking from a nap. Suddenly, he felt a searing pain on his chest and looked down to find bloody claw marks running across it, and then 2 days later, they vanished without a trace. Following Lou's traumatic experience, the women invited a medium over to help solve their seemingly paranormal problem. The medium held a seance and told the women that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a deceased 7-year-old named Annabelle Higgins, whose body had been found years earlier on the site where their apartment building had been built. The medium claimed that the spirit was benevolent and simply wanted to be loved and cared for. The two young nurses reportedly felt bad for the spirit and consented to allow her to take up permanent residence in the doll. Now, for those of my listeners who watch legitimate paranormal shows, you know what I'm talking about. This should be a red flag. If you are not into paranormal shows, let me get you up to speed. It is believed that entities that want to harm will present as a child or childlike to evoke sympathy and grant them entry into a person or place and wreak total havoc. All right, side note over with. Eventually, whatever was in Annabelle became too much, and Donna and Angie called on an Episcopal priest known as Father Hegan. Hegan contacted his superior, Father Cook, who welcomed in Ed and Lorraine Warren. As far as the Warrens were concerned, the two young ladies' troubles truly started when they began believing that the doll deserved their sympathy. The Warrens believed that there was actually a demonic force in search of a human host within Annabelle and not a benevolent soul. The Warrens' account of their case states, quote, spirits do not possess inanimate objects like houses or toys. They possess people. An inhuman spirit can attach itself to a place or object, and this is what occurred in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated the doll and created the illusion of it being alive in order to get recognition. Truly, the spirit was not looking to stay attached to the doll. It was looking to possess a human host, end quote. The Warrens elaborated that what they believed were signs of demonic possession was the doll moving on its own, which was teleportation, the parchment paper notes, which is materialization, and loose clawed chest, which they thought would have been a sign of the mark of the beast. The Warrens believed that these events, along with drops of blood spontaneously appearing on the doll and having the medium communicate with it to evoke sympathy, would cause irreparable harm to the three young adults within the next few weeks. The Warrens subsequently ordered an exorcism that they later recount Father Cook was reluctant to participate in of the apartment. Then, at the request of Donna, they took Annabelle out of the apartment. The Warrens reported that on the drive back to their home, Annabelle would mess with their car, including the brakes and the power steering. It only stopped once Ed doused the doll in holy water. Once the Warrens were safely back at home, Annabelle would continue to play tricks in their house. They reported that even with the doll locked in an outbuilding on their property, they would return home to find her sitting in Ed's recliner. Hey, she wanted to chill, relax, she had a long day. The doll also did not like clergymen. Well, it is an alleged demonic entity. I think that would be a given. But more specifically, a friend of theirs that was also a clergyman came to the home, picked up Annabelle, shook her, and said, quote, "You're just a rag doll, Annabelle. You can't hurt anyone," end quote. The Warrens told him to be careful on his way home. He called later to say that the brakes in his car failed, his car was totaled, and he was nearly killed. The Warrens decided at that point that Annabelle was only safe behind glass. While she had calmed down since being placed in her new cozy abode, which is a specially made glass with the Lord's Prayer and St. Michael's Prayer inscribed on the wood, a patron of their occult museum did taunt the doll and challenged her to scratch him. On his way home from the museum, he hit a tree head on with his motorcycle, killing him instantly. His girlfriend, who survived the accident but was hospitalized for almost a year, claimed that they were making fun of Annabelle when the accident happened. The Warrens have since passed on, and while a lot of their cases have been debunked, their son-in-law, Tony Spira, continues to run the occult museum and speak about the importance of the Warrens' work. In 2020, it was rumored that Annabelle had broken out of her encasement, but Tony debunked that with a picture of himself next to the doll. Oddly enough, in the statement he said, quote, "I'd be concerned if Annabelle really did leave because she's nothing to play with," end quote. Apparently, this man changed his tune because he is one of the organizers for the Devils on the Run exhibition, where several artifacts from the Occult Museum are on tour. Which by now you may have heard that Annabelle may have had a hand in a certain plantation burning down earlier this year. She will be in Gettysburg in July of 2025, but unfortunately, if you're wanting to go, that has been sold out. You do have some opportunities this year if you have an extra $50 to catch her on other circuit tours. Well, that's the tale of Annabelle, the doll who allegedly went from gift shop reject to demonic freeloading roommate. Because when evil wants to terrorize humanity, apparently it picks a stuffed Raggedy Ann knockoff. Bold strategy, Satan. Whether you buy into the whole possessed plaything saga or just think someone watched Child's Play one too many times, hey, who are we to ruin a perfectly good haunting? Especially one that now lives behind museum glass like she's the Mona Lisa of malevolent plush. Anyway, that's enough cursed doll talk for one episode. See you next time, assuming none of our Funko Pops come to life and strangle us in our sleep. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at simply_suspicious. Bye, y'all!